Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning, good afternoon. It is the Earthmaster back here on this wonderful Wednesday. Friday is right around the corner. It is November 29th, 2023. It's about 10:25 a.m. here, California time. Latest activity shows a 1.6 here into the area of Texas. Did see some movement here off the Cascadia subduction zone earlier this morning. We'll check that out here in just a little bit. First, I want to cover the arrival of a couple CMEs headed our direction. If you look at this beautiful view here, you'll see a blasting off of a couple CMEs in the Earth direction, which is this little green dot here. That does look like it's going to hit Earth pretty nicely in terms of a direct impact. And this is expected to kick up potentially up to a G3 class storm. There's 1, 2, 3 potential CMEs. Maybe the last two there could combine to form a stronger enhancement on the geomagnetic field as we head towards the 1st of December. And that's going to be UTC time here. So looks like potentially starting out tonight, early as tonight, we could get the first arrival of one of the 3 CMEs. And so we'll watch for that tonight. The G3 class storm will kick up most likely on the 1st is what they mentioned here on the UTC time. So potentially maybe tomorrow night we could see things kick up for the those 2 CMEs that are heading our way that could be combined into one. Again, G3 class storming possibilities here on the UTC date of 12/1, so that's going to be tomorrow, right? Technically tomorrow, yep. All right, so what are these guys saying? Probably not going to see anything major going on in terms of, electrical grids and whatnot. It would take something much stronger. But we could see auroras down into Oregon, Illinois. Last time we had something like this, we did see some down even into Oklahoma, and I think Texas seen some as well. So don't want to miss out tonight and tomorrow. Tomorrow night would be the big one if it does ring true. Right now, all the space models here are showing a pretty good impact from the last 2 CMEs that combine right here. See that? They combine to kind of make a more stronger one there potentially. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, see if things work out as planned. Now, it did pick up that CME from yesterday pretty nicely here. You'll see it shooting off right there. Full halo CME, Earth directed from that near X flare yesterday. It did peak out there to about an M9.8. Beautiful flare from 3500. That is, again, Earth facing. And let's see what it's doing here today. See what 3500 looks like today. This is last night. A little bit more position right there towards us. The most recent image does show the movement there further across the western limb of the sun, heading off to the right on the screen here. Does still show some complexity within this main core. It's about really the only one of noteworthy potential here that could continue to see some stronger flaring take place from this area. Once again, that's 3500. Harbors at least some potential there for maybe an X flare. 99% certainty there with the C flare probability, 40% for M flare, X flare around 10%. And there's those G2 storming conditions, again, potentially up to G3, and that is directly from the Space Weather Prediction Center. I know a lot of folks been picking up on space weather here recently, kind of fear-mongering, They'll just go with whatever sells. But we're not going to see any G4 conditions, I don't think. A lot of people throwing that number out. But from the official folks here, the Space Weather Prediction Center, G3 expected for tomorrow night. But tonight, a little bit of enhancement going on. See, that's the 30th, right? Even though today's the 29th, that's going to be UTC time. So here in about 6 hours, we're going to be at the 30th of November for the UTC time. So that's tonight And tomorrow night, the bigger one, potentially, when the two arrive as one. All right, let's see what else we got here for earthquake activity. There's this movement up here off the coast of Oregon. This earthquake coming into the Blanco fracture zone here, just off of it, looks like. A 4.3 coming in about 5 o'clock my time this morning. Did see some activity last night here into the Gorda Ridges. A little 3.6. For the most part, though, Pacific Northwest, awfully quiet. I do want to look up Mount St. Helens, see if anything's going on up there in terms of earthquake activity. We haven't checked that out in a while. They have been seeing, quite a bit of earthquake activity here recently. Here is the gas monitoring stations here, all the emissions around the area. Not really seeing anything elevated in terms of volcanic gases. Hydrogen sulfide, pretty quiet there, no elevated spikes. Same with the past month there of the sulfur dioxide. Just we get these not elevated, but little periods of higher measurements compared to certain days where it could be lower. But this is nothing big. If this was, we were looking at some gas emissions coming out there from the Mount St. Helens area in a big way, this would spike well off the chart, but it's not. And earthquake activity, this one, there's a little bit. I see a handful of earthquakes in here. This is an earthquake probably near, actually I take that back. That's going to be the earthquake off the coast there of Oregon, that 4-pointer. It looked like it picked it up pretty nicely. That would coincide with that time frame here, which was earlier this morning. But as far as local seismic activity, it's going to look like this. It almost looks as though they stopped reporting on the earthquake activity that's taken place here, because there's definitely, I probably count 10, 15 or more little earthquakes there around Mount St. Helens, but nothing being reported here at all. In fact, it looks like the entire Pacific Northwest network stopped reporting their earthquake activity. Not for sure why, but that's what they're doing, it looks like. Yellowstone National Park, a handful of smaller quakes about 5 o'clock this morning or so. Let me look on the Yellowstone overview, see what we have. Still seeing a little bit of smaller earthquake activity here around the Mary Lake area. Look at those little spikes. Those are all localized to that seismograph station, but also over here. Notice a couple more earthquakes here on this map. Looks like the west boundary station over here is showing that as well. And that's going to be some of those earthquakes that did show up here on the Yellowstone map here from the USGS, but maybe only about half of them. But you can see they're very small, below 1.0 or below. All right, California, the rest of California out here. Let's see what we got. I know we have seen some elevated movement here the last day or so with some 2s and 3s popping up. Nothing else, it looks like, here so far after midnight, as far as anything above 2.5. We're still seeing a handful of smaller microquakes down here across the Southern California area, close to the San Andreas Fault. We'll continue to watch that, see if anything changes out there. And some movement out in Pecos, or outside of Pecos, Texas there. 1.6 looks to be the latest, along with a couple other earthquakes out there this morning in the oil fields of the beautiful state of Texas. Big Island of Hawaii, well, that's not a lot of earthquake activity at all. Not a lot whatsoever. Only about 8. So let's go see what's going on over there at the Hawaii area. See if anything major is going on. Any further inflation? That's what we're here to find out. Inflation tilt meters here going to show us whether it is continuing to inflate or not. Here's the last 2 days of inflation monitoring. Still shows that rising up there off the chart. We're currently still at the highest peak level in over 5 years in terms of inflation data across the summit region. So things are still building quite nicely underneath this area. Not seeing a whole lot of earthquake activity though, but I would watch potentially the region just south here of the summit area for some further earthquake activity, maybe earthquake swarming in a big fashion before we see some fissures open up out there. Right now, the Lava Lake area looks pretty cloudy out there across that region of Kilauea Volcano. Zoom in here to one of these cams. I always keep forgetting which one is the good cam to look at. There's, oops, messed that one up. Here we go. Here's a little bit better overview of the lava lake area where most of the eruptions here recently have been confined. I've been filling up this lake area quite nicely. There are some areas where we may see some droppage, so to speak, as everything settles in this region. Now, if this thing started to swell, it'd be a little bit different story. Obviously, there's swelling around the summit region with that inflation going on, but I believe there's complete blockage going on here with that solidification of the magma into the the fissures that were active out here in the past couple eruptions. I still leaning more towards an eruption south of the summit region out here, because we have seen a couple different earthquake swarms away from the summit region here recently in some odd areas, a little bit more down south, a little bit to the southeast. So obviously stuff is still building up underneath this area, and just it's continue to inflate there. I want to check out Iceland real quick. Haven't seen anything out here today. Let's see, 12 hours, it's about 70 earthquakes or so, mainly confined around the Hagafell area, northeast of Grindavik, Iceland. There is a 2.4 in there. It does look a little bit more active today than yesterday. Let's see if they put out a article today in terms of the movement. Doesn't look like it here. This is day number 2 with no recent update here from the Icelandic Meteorological Office. Normally, they would put out something here if there's any new information, but this is still from a couple days ago. Looking at the earthquake activity, though, it does look like things are potentially kicking back up out here around the region of the magma intrusion area. And that is, again, around the Hagafell area just north. They believe the eruption, the scientists and geologists and whatnot, believe that the eruption potential is going to take place between this area right here where that triangle is and the Hagafell area, right where we're seeing this earthquake activity today. So we'll continue to watch that and report back on anything. But for now, doesn't look like there's a whole lot to report other than some new earthquake activity in that region. Anything major overnight? Doesn't look like it. Looks like we're kind of in limbo currently between the quietness out here across the western Pacific and some elevated activity out here across the eastern. Got to watch that when things go quiet like that. Normally one or the two will definitely pick up in a big way. One earthquake here outside of Tokyo this morning, a 4.7 into the Japan Trench, about 70 kilometers or so. Down in Papua New Guinea area, I believe this activity from yesterday, a couple 4s there from yesterday. Nothing new here in the Fiji Islands today. So that's why I'm saying it's kind of quiet over here today. A lot of older movement there in the red circles. Clustering going on, obviously, across the Indonesia Islands area where we always see it. Looks like we did see some slight adjustment here, an advancement across the Java Trench, the northern edge, overnight with a couple 3s stirring up there. USGS really not showing too much in terms of earthquake activity over here, but we did see, looks like a 4.8 near the Port Blair, India area, Andaman Sea region. Well, that's way outside of the Port Blair area, 275 kilometers, but near the Andaman Sea. Earlier this morning, just after midnight my time actually, did see some movement. 4.5 in the Tajikistan area, 128 kilometers deep. The Atlantic Ocean out there looks pretty quiet for now, not a whole lot of activity stirring up. And the Mediterranean region, there's that 4.8 over in the areas around the Middle East area. But as far as the Mediterranean Sea and whatnot, a couple 2s out there. South America seen a handful of earthquakes as well, some 2s and even a couple 3s in that mix. Right now, I'm leaning more towards some activity stirring up out here across the eastern Pacific. It does show some increasing movement overnight and this morning so far, with very little to show across the western Pacific. So keep an eye out here across the west coast. There was a 4.0 down into the Gulf of California, it looks like. USGS not picking up on that, though. All right, Storm Prediction Center here. We do have the threat of severe weather coming up for, this is going to be Thursday. Thursday, kind of a big day. Got a 10% chance of tornadoes down there in the Texas area. December, well, technically it's going to be still November, but this is pretty close to December, right? That's kind of crazy to see those events down there this late in the year, but it can happen anytime, right? 10% chance for tornadoes. Looks like a little bit of wind and hail threat, but the main threat looks like tornado potential down there across some highly populated regions around Huntsville, Texas, the Woodlands. But also this 5% zone extends pretty far outside of that 10% area. So that includes Houston, Pasadena, these areas. A lot of population density down there. So just a heads up for Thursday. We'll cover this back here tomorrow. And, well, tomorrow is Thursday, right? I'm a little off here. I was thinking today was Tuesday, but today is Wednesday. All right. So tomorrow, kind of a big day there, Thursday. All right, day 2. Day 1 would be right now. That's day 1. Very minimal thunderstorm activity out there today. All right, moving on. Let's see here what we got. We'll probably see some of those. This moisture is coming in from the south here, a little bit warmer. Moist air flowing in from the Gulf. There's that severe weather potential stretching up tomorrow. That's going to work its way north and east, it looks like. Either way, there's a lot of rain coming down here for the portions of the south. They definitely need it. Pacific Northwest, looks like we got a little bit of storming going on there for Oregon and Washington. Not a whole lot creeping down into Northern California, unfortunately. But a little bit bummed about this. But moisture, for the most part, is going to stay north of Northern California out there. Goodness. All right, folks, have a good one. Again, watch for potential auroras starting tonight. And tomorrow night will be the arrival of possibly 2 combined CMEs. One of them being from the near X flare yesterday. So we'll continue to watch that. And hopefully things kick up. Looks like they will. I mean, when you got a sunspot really kicking off a full halo CME, it's kind of hard to dodge that. So I think this will play out as expected. That's also dependent on the current condition of our magnetic field. But I think with the arrival of the first one coming in, that should stir things up a little bit and maybe allow for some further intensification here tomorrow night. Be nice to see some auroras down into some of the mid-latitudes. Be nice to see them down here in Northern California. I'm not even joking. That'd be awesome. But I think it'd take a little bit stronger than a G3 or G2 class storm up there. It'd have to be way higher. But who knows? Fingers crossed. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Have a good one. Stay safe out there on this Wednesday. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on tonight.